There's no other way to put it, but catcher was simply bad for fantasy baseball players in 2024. But today, we flip the page and look forward to 2025 and see if the position will be any better for us this upcoming season on today's action-packed episode of Locked On Fantasy Baseball.
You are Locked On Fantasy Baseball, your daily fantasy baseball podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, fantasy baseball fanatics, and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Baseball podcast, brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. As always, we're your number one source of fantasy baseball knowledge, and thank you for making us your first listen each and every day. I am your host, Dominick Martino, riding solo today, as you can see if you're watching on YouTube. And if you are watching on YouTube and you haven't already, hit that little bell below. It will subscribe you to the channel and give you a notification every time we drop a new episode. And if you happen to be listening on a platform like Apple or Spotify, that allows 5-star ratings and reviews, we would truly appreciate it if you could take a second and do that for us as well. And lastly, but most importantly to Matt and I, guys, give us a chance on the Subtext platform. Do Subtext. It's an in-depth, personalized experience through text messaging alerts that go right to your phone, offering so much more than we can in this 30-minute podcast. And if you are interested in joining us on Subtext, the link is below in our bio where you're ever listening or watching. And if not, it's available on any of our social media platforms. And real quick, you can start the season big with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started today. And all right, guys, teased it at the top. This has been a bad position, especially the last couple of years, and literally last season, catcher was a hard position to find somebody that was contributing. It truly was. The position has taken a turn for the worse over the past few years. Some of the big guys at the top, like the Adley Rutschmans and the Will Smiths, have been underperforming. And we really haven't seen that plethora of young talent make their way to the bigs yet. We've seen a couple of them. We haven't seen, there's still quite a few young catchers in the minors that could be impactful, even this upcoming season. But, the way I've been doing my position, way too early position previews, we're going to look at the way that the position finished up last year. We're going to do, once again, we always talk about, mainly what Matt and I specialize here, which is 5x5 head-to-head categories leagues. We'll throw a little point spin and, regulars, just straight roto spin on this as well. But, that is what Matt and I specialize in. So when I'm talking about my rankings here, that is what I'm going to be talking about. So let's start from the top. Last season, William Contreras was the number one catcher. Salvador Perez was number 2. Yainer Diaz was 3. Cal Raleigh was 4. Will Smith was 5. Adley Rutschman was 6. Shea Langoliers was 7. Tyler Stephenson was 8. Connor Wong was 9. And Logan O'Hoppe was 10. I do want to point out something here. So, I talked about Cal Raleigh was the 4th catcher last year. The drop-off from Cal Raleigh at 4 to Will Smith at 5 was drastic. It was almost 100 spots in the rankings. Cal Raleigh finished the season as the 99th overall player, and Will Smith finished it as the 190th. So, like I said, almost 100 spot difference there. So as I said, you were really hard off trying to find a catcher that was, putting you in a position to succeed on a week-to-week basis. But let's, with that being said, let's look back at how we had drafted the position going into 2024, and then we'll do a little comparison here. So we drafted, looks really, really different. We were taking Adley Rutschman number 1, JT Realmuto number 2, Will Smith number 3, William Contreras number 4, Yainer Diaz number 5, Cal Raleigh Salvador Perez number 6, Cal Raleigh number 7, Sean Murphy at 8, Wilson Contreras at 9, and Francisco Alvarez at 10. So like I said, big difference in the way things finished up. We were taking Adley Rutschman at pick 44 overall going into this past season. It just didn't pay off. And I was always a big wait on my catcher kind of guy. I know I'll go out. I'll just say, if you guys, have been a fan for a while of the podcast, and you were listening going into this past season, I was a big Mitch Garver guy. I was taking Mitch Garver late, and, it didn't wind up paying off. But I'll say this. At least I didn't pay up for the Adley, the JT Realmuto, the Will Smith, because those didn't really pay off. You had William Contreras finish with a really strong season. Yainer Diaz as well. I was a big Yainer Diaz guy. I mean, he got pushed up a lot. We had a strong preseason or a spring training rather, and he got pushed up draft boards, was going around pick 100 a little bit later than that. But you really had to either take Yainer Diaz, Salvador Perez, or Cal Raleigh. And if you didn't take any of those three, you're really, probably struggled at the position, or your team struggled because you paid up for, the Adley, the Will Smith, and or the JT Realmuto, and it just didn't work out this year. So I think I'm going to take the same approach going into, this 2025 season. I think I'm going to wait at catcher. I do think William Contreras, I don't want to say he's bulletproof, but, if you are going to pay up for a catcher, it better be William Contreras, because I don't know if Salvy's going to do it again for another season. He's getting older. I do like Yainer Diaz a lot. Great young player with the Astros. I think he's going to see a lot of playing time on that team. And he'll be good. The batting average is real. He can hit for batting average. A little bit of pop in that bat. Would love to see him go into a little bit more power. 84 RBIs was pretty strong last year over his 585 bats. They keep Yainer Diaz in the lineup. So I do like him as well. But I'm not paying up for Adley. I'm not paying up for Salvy. I'm not paying up for Will Smith. And I really think like you'll see William Contreras, Salvy, Yainer, Raleigh, Will Smith, and not even Will Smith, and Adley. I think that's going to be the 5 this year that are going inside the top 100. And then you'll see that drop off. I'll pick and choose. I'll find somebody later on. We'll talk as we get into my rankings in the next segment of this episode. My 2025 catcher rankings. I'm going to go through the top probably 15 there. So, kind of compare where I think I'm going to, where we, can make our money at the catcher position in 2025. But, it's just, like I said, you're going to have to wait unless you want to pay up. And I think William Contreras is probably going to go, third, fourth round pick, late third round, early fourth round pick. So, you could take him there, but you're really going to have to build a strong team around him the rest of the way, because at that point, in round 3, I'm probably looking at another big bat. Or, I'm trying to get my SP1, and then vice versa in round 4. So if I went for my SP1 in round 3, I'm going to try and get me a big bat in round 4 and then switch it around the other way. If I get my third big bat in round 3, I'm going for my SP1 in round 4. And it just, it costs a lot to take a catcher there. And I know William Contreras is great. He's still giving you good numbers, but I still think overall you could find a guy in that third, fourth round that is going to be way more contributing to your lineup as far as your bats go than him, or you get yourself a really, really strong SP at that time. And that's the way you I think that's going to just hurt your lineup. I really do. So I'm not going to be the guy doing it, but I'm not really going to truly knock you if you could do that and find a way to build your lineup around William Contreras being your third, fourth round pick. Same thing with Salvador Perez. It might be worth it. He might hit 25 plus home runs with a great RBI total, good batting average again. But then again, Father Time is up against him. Already spoke about Yainer Diaz. I like Cal Raleigh. Cal Raleigh is just a lot of power, a little bit of the batting average. Like he really gives you nothing in that category. He hit 220 last year. Cal Raleigh did. 100 RBIs is nice. 100 RBIs is really good for him. So, you can be okay there. Will Smith is a tough one, man. Just as he gets older, we really thought there was going to be more. There's not. It's in a great Dodgers lineup, 476 at-bats. He got 77 runs, 75 RBIs with 20 homers and a 248 batting average. It's so mediocre. Adley was super disappointing, but I think I want to break him down in the next segment here because, I want to spend some time on him. But with that being said, we'll break down Adley, in this next segment. We'll get into guys like Shea Langoliers, Logan O'Hoppe, and my 2025 catcher rankings. Make sure you stay locked on. And folks, real quick, I want to talk to you about my friends over at Game Time. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. With Game Time Picks curation, it makes it easier to save more on sports, concert, comedy, theater, and more. Game Time has plenty of great features as well as their all-in pricing. When you toggle this feature, it shows the total up front so there's no surprise fees fees when you check out. With their seat views, you're getting a panoramic view from the actual seat you'll be sitting in the app before you buy it. With their lowest price guarantee, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. And with Game Time's ticket coverage, your purchase is covered by the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. All right, folks, real quick, I do want to talk to you once again about the Locked On Fantasy Baseball Podcast Diamond Club on the Subtext platform. We're going to be your ultimate fantasy baseball companion as this offseason continues to unfold. You can rely on Matt and I for our dynamic content. You're going to get real-time alerts right to your phone, including my 2025 rankings. We're doing sleepers, breakouts, and busts this early. We're also only answering keeper dynasty questions through Subtext this offseason. So if you want those answered, you're going to have to join us on Subtext. If you are looking for the link to join us on Subtext, it's in the bio wherever you're listening or watching, or available on any of our social media platforms. So make sure you stay ahead of your fantasy league by joining the Diamond Club on Subtext, where the path to your victories begins. Subscribe now and elevate your fantasy baseball experience to a new level. And all right, guys, I teased it before. We're going to get into it, man. We're going to talk about Adley. You know, it was a tough year. It was really a tough year for Adley. Matt and I were telling you to trade away because the underlying stuff really didn't look good for Adley. We were telling you to get him off your teams, to trade him what you could. And if you did, it worked out because, you know, Adley did play 148 games, had 571 at-bats, 68 runs, 21 doubles, 19 homers, 79 RBIs. He had 58 walks to 103 strikeouts, and he hit 250. So I don't know if there was something wrong with Adley or if his 2023 season winds up being the outlier where he hit 277. He had 92 walks to 101 strikeouts. The plate discipline was on point. He took a step back in both of those categories. The batting average went down to 250, as I mentioned, and the walk to strikeout ratio plummeted. He had 58 walks to 103 strikeouts once again this past season. The homers didn't take a step in the right direction. We really thought, you know, Adley could grow into a bit more power with that 6'2", 230 frame. Hit one less home run, in, 17 less at-bats. So he would have been right around the same. He had 10 less doubles. The runs plummeted by, almost 20 runs. So there's something wrong. There's something wrong here with Adley. I'm not going to have him, ranked number one going into 2025. I'm going to get into those rankings in a second. You know what? We'll do it. I moved Adley down to third. I moved Adley down to my third catcher. I still think there's upside here. I will say this. I kind of want to see what the draft price is on a guy like Adley. If it really falls and you can get Adley, let's say around 6, 7, I might be jumping back in because he still is, very young, still in the prime of his career, going to be 27 years old this upcoming season. I'm still hoping there's another level, right? We're gonna give him another year because even if we go back to the 2023 season, he's not a guy who had a great exit velocity or a hard hit rate, not hitting the ball very hard. So I don't know if that power that we thought was there is going to be there. Adley might just be a 25 home run guy with a really good batting average and counting stats on this Orioles team. I just want to find out what was going on with him this past season, if he was playing through injury or if maybe something happened in his life. Because, sometimes we forget that, these guys are human beings as well. We play fantasy baseball, we invest a lot of time and money into it, and we forget to think about, hey, maybe there was something going on in this man's personal life that affected him and he wasn't able to play baseball the way he normally was. I wouldn't be surprised if this spring training Adley comes out, I was playing through an injury, or, we had something happen in the family that, my mind wasn't fully on the game. And that's a very normal thing in life. And we got to think about that and take that into account too when we're playing fantasy baseball, because a guy like Adley, who was a very high-end prospect, I don't think the talent is just gone. I don't think it's not there anymore. But I do want to find out if there was something going on, because if there wasn't, and he says, no, I was fully healthy last year, was in great mindset, family was great, great year. then maybe it is. Maybe there is something, deeper that we have to dive into and figure out here. But, if you look back, when in college, Adley had a lot of power in the minors. He showed off in 123 games, 452 at-bats. In 2021, he did 23 homers. So like I said, we really thought there was another level. And then even the walk-to-strikeout ratio for you points leagues players out there, it plummeted again. It really wasn't good. So we're going to have to be very cautious when drafting Adley in, 2025. If the price is high and where he's still being drafted as the number one catcher, not going to do it. Won't pay that price for him. But like I said, if he starts falling 6th, 7th round, I think we could start taking a look at him there because there is upside. I really think the upside with a guy like Adley is, close to 100 runs, 25, 30 homers if he can tap into that power, which is a big if at this point in his career. 100 RBIs is possible. A really, really good to walk to strikeout ratio. You're almost talking to 1-for-1 like he did in 2023. That's on the line. And then he can be close to a 300 bat. He can hit 285 plus. He really has the eye for it. He knows how to spray the ball across the field. I just truly think there was something going on with him in 2024. Like I said, I won't be paying that number one price for him because I just really don't ever invest highly in catcher. But Adley is a guy that I could see taking, like I said, 6th, 7th round, 12-man league. It could be a money-making spot for Adley. So let's jump into these rankings now. Let's do some fun stuff here. I know this is what you guys like. I'm just gonna go 1 through. Let's do 1 through 10 first, and if we have a little extra time, I'll give you guys a little bit more meat on the bone there. So going into 2025, as of today, this is how my rankings stand. William Contreras at 1, Yainer Diaz at 2, Adley Rutschman at 3, Salvador Perez at 4, Will Smith at 5, Cal Raleigh at 6, Shea Langoliers at 7, Wilson Contreras at 8, JT Realmuto at 9, and Logan O'Hoppe at 10. With that being said, I already want to move Will Smith down to 6 and move Cal Raleigh up. I kind of deep dive a little bit on both of them already at this point, so we're not going to spend a lot of time on them. But let's move into somebody we haven't really talked about at all. Actually, my number 7 catcher, and where did he finish last year? Because we did talk about this already. Shea Langoliers is the name. He finished 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7th in 5x5 head-to-head categories leagues. He was the number 7 overall catcher. He had 58 runs, 29 homers, 80 RBIs, 4 steals. He had 224, and that was over 482 at-bats. So I think if he gets a little bit more playing time, he gets out there on the diamond a little bit more. I think Shea Langoliers could see a little bit of an increase, could hit 30-plus homers. The 80 RBIs is legit. This Oakland team, they may not be great, or this Athletics team, they may not be great, but they definitely could score runs on any given night. They do score a lot of runs, but when they go into those, those funks, it gets pretty bad. I think Shea Langoliers is like a Cal Raleigh light. So if you were like very high on Cal Raleigh, and I think he will go before Shea Langoliers in drafts, that's a great fallback. It's a great fallback. He was a pretty highly touted prospect. I like what he can do out there. Once again, not really ever going to be a batting average contributor, but big power. There is power. 6 foot 205, big frame dude. Has showed off power, throughout his minor league career as well. I don't think there's much meat on the bone in the batting average department for a guy like Shea Langoliers. I think 220 is right where about you're gonna be with him. But like I said, can he play a few more games and push that 30 home run mark in his age 27 season, right in the prime of his career? Of course he can. So, like I said, a great fallback option, and I don't think we need to be too scared of drafting a guy like Shea Langoliers. And, like I said, he might be one of those moneymakers. He might be that guy like, Cal Raleigh was, a few years back, and just be like, oh, okay, he's here. Shea Langoliers is going to be, their catcher, out there for the Athletics, and he's going to hit, a lot of power. So, you just take that into account when you're drafting the rest of your team. Make sure you get a little bit of batting average if you do take a guy like Shea Langoliers. But you know what? We will deep dive the rest of my rankings and talk about names. Like we'll do a little JT Realmuto, we'll do a little Logan O'Hoppe, and then maybe we'll even move into my 11 to 15 catchers. So make sure you stay locked on. But guys, real quick, I need to talk to you about my friends over at FanDuel. Get ready to tackle NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of your game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. And all right, my people, let's get into this. Where are we going to go next? I teased JT Realmuto at the top, and I know he's an interesting name. And I know if you're here, listening at this time, you're a fantasy baseball fanatic like I. And let's get into a guy like JT. One of the best catchers in the game, going back, from like 2016 through 2022, he was arguably the best catcher in the game. He's taken a little bit of a turn for the worse over the past couple of years, and he's getting older. JT Realmuto is going to be 34 this upcoming season. Let's break down what he did last year. Played through, a lot of injuries, only got to 99 games, 380 at-bats, 50 runs, 18 doubles, 14 homers, 47 RBIs, chipped in a couple of steals and hit 266. So I think the glory years of JT are gone. I think he's going to be more like a 15 homer guy, depending on how many games he gets. The Phillies are a good team to score runs and, for him to drive them in as well. So, I mean, that's really going to be more dependent on the team and where he's hitting the lineup. And I don't think he's going to be able to steal much bases anymore. I think the speed's kind of, dissipated. And if he gives you a 5, you're super lucky. The batting average is the thing that, he's a career 270 guy, hit 266 last year. I could see him being a 265 plus kind of guy. So, it's really, once again, this is going to be an ADP thing because I honestly don't hate JT Realmuto for fantasy in 2025, especially if we can get him where we were taking him last year. Kind of want to see where the people were. He was number 2 catcher overall, pick 70. So if we can get him at pick 150 this year, maybe we're around where we're getting Cal Raleigh last year, I'd like that. I might jump in on him there if I waited on the catcher position because it's a tough thing to see a guy who was a former star and just at 34 years old, what's left in the tank at this point. We're going through it with guys like Goldschmidt and Arenado. And it's just tough to see. So I'm not going to be investing too much, but I do want to see where the price is on JT Realmuto because he could be a guy that if you wait on the position that he's not going to kill you. I think he'll be contributing a batting average, get you a home run every once in a while. And once again, the counting stats could be good. And I'm definitely not counting on a bounce back in the speed department from JT at all because it's going to be a little bit too much to ask for a 34-year-old to jump back over 10 steals. I don't think we're going to see it from JT in 2025. Let's jump around this list a little bit. Let's talk about a potential breakout. I feel like I've been throwing a little bit of that haterade around. I've been on the phone with Matt too much recently. So, he gets that coming at me. But let's talk about somebody I like going into 2025. Let's talk about Logan O'Hoppe, another guy who dealt with a little bit of injury in 2024. He did get to 136 games, 479 at-bats, though. He had 64 runs. He had 17 doubles, 20 homers, 56 RBIs, 33 walks, 255 strikeouts, and he hit 244 with Mr. O'Hoppe, with Mr. O'Hoppe, still super young, still a lot of upside. Another guy that, had a lot of prospect buzz around him. He's still only age 24 right now. And the underlying stuff does like O'Hoppe in a lot of categories. They think that there's room to grow in the batting average, think he could be around a 250 hitter. He hits the ball hard. He knows how to find that sweet spot. He's quick. He's 71st percentile in sprint speed. So I know we did only see him steal 2 bags in, 2024. But if the philosophy changes over there for the Angels and, maybe they want to get him moving around a little bit more on that base paths, he could be like a JT Realmuto on the base paths where he gets you 15 plus steals. So it would be crazy. but I think we could see Logan O'Hoppe hit 30 home runs and steal 50. That might be my bold prediction for one of my bold predictions for 2025, that Logan O'Hoppe goes 30 homers and 15 steals and hits 250 and just is a fantasy darling and gets into the top 5 of catchers. I'll say this, that I truly think Logan O'Hoppe might be my guy at the catcher position this year. I think we're going to be able to get him at a great price. I don't think too many people, I don't think he's going to be a buzzy name. I think he's going to be overlooked a lot, and I already feel myself moving him up my rankings. I feel like I can easily get a guy like Logan O'Hoppe to 7 or 8, to be honest with you, because I like him just about as much as like Shea Langoliers. I know Shea Langoliers is, I think, more of a sure thing to give you, like just 30 home runs straight, and you kind of just lock it and forget it, and whatever else he gives you is gravy. But O'Hoppe too. O'Hoppe does have that 30 home run upside. I know he only hit 20 this past season, but he's 24, going to be 25 next season, still growing into that man body. And I don't even know if I mentioned it up top, but Logan O'Hoppe 6'2", 185. Maybe put a little bit more muscle on that frame, get up to like 190, 195, and just start driving that ball out of the park like crazy. I think there's a world where he does it. So, once again, I want to see where the ADP was on O'Hoppe last year. O'Hoppe was coming off the board last year as the 13th catcher, pick 213. All right, if he moves up to the number 10 catcher, maybe that's around like pick 160, it looked like last year. So if we have to take O'Hoppe there, I'd even jump him up to pick 150, and I would take O'Hoppe there, to be honest with you, because I think he's going to be really good. Honestly, my sleeper / breakout at the position for sure, Logan O'Hoppe, definitely love the kid. You know what? We got a couple minutes left here, so let's go into that next segment of this catcher. And if you stuck around, you definitely deserve to hear this. So let's go 11 through 15 on my 2025 catcher rankings. I have Tyler Stephenson at 11, Austin Wells at 12, Francisco Alvarez at 13, Gabriel Moreno at 14, and Sean Murphy at 15. One name I do want to talk about, another name that I think I might get a few shares of, is Austin Wells of the New York Yankees. A big fan of his. He had a couple of good runs, in this past 2024 season. The numbers at the end didn't wind up looking, super sexy, but, 115 games for Austin Wells, 354 at-bats, 42 runs, 18 doubles, 13 homers, 55 RBIs, 47 walks to 87 strikeouts, and he hit 229. Austin Wells is another big dude. He is 6'2", 220. So another big frame, and another dude that I really think could take a great step, ahead in the homer department in 2025. Underlying stuff didn't really look super great for it, but Austin Wells in the minors was really, really known for his power. I think Wells, if he gets 135 games, 30 home runs isn't out of the question, especially in a small ballpark like Yankee Stadium. The batting average, I think he can be a little bit better. He had some really strong batting average seasons in the minors too. So, he has done it before, of course, obviously in the bigs. It's easier said than done. But I think Wells is a guy that could hit 240, 250 in a good season with, 25 plus homers. And the counting stats on the Yankee team, I know they're going to lose. I don't know they're going to lose Juan Soto, but it's not looking great for the Yankees retaining Juan Soto. So with that being said, guys are going to have to step up. There's going to be more potential for RBIs. I think some could come Austin Wells' way, and another guy. I just don't really think we're going to have to pay a lot for Austin Wells at all. I think he could be taken around pick 200, and honestly, you're gonna make profit. You're gonna make profit off taking a guy like Austin Wells that late. You don't need to go really heavy at the top of the catcher position, I don't think, this year. And I want to talk about one more guy that I mentioned, my number 11 overall catcher heading into this 2025 season, Tyler Stephenson. Tyler Stephenson is another catcher that's dealt with injury. A lot of catchers do deal with injury. That's a tough position to play. After Tyler Stephenson's, 132 games in 2021, I really liked him. The following year, he got banged up in 2022, only played 50 games. Came back in 2023, didn't impress, played 142 games, had 13 homers and a 243. But Tyler Stephenson started to show life in 2024. His age 27 season, 138 games, 457 at-bats, had 69 runs, 26 doubles, 19 homers, 66 RBIs, and he hit 258. So there's life in that bat, man. I think Tyler Stephenson's a guy that could, take a step forward in the batting average department and hit 265, 270 with a good home run total, playing, a half of his games in Great American Small Park in Cincinnati, because of course he plays for those Cincinnati Reds. So, 20 plus 25 home runs is not out of the question. And the counting stats were already good this past season with 69 runs and 66 RBIs in 138 games, 457 at-bats. I like that. Another guy, don't think we're going to have to pay a huge price for Tyler Stephenson. Honestly, I think he might even find his way inside my top 10 catchers. As I deep dive these rankings and do this episode and talk things out with you guys, it helps me as well. I learn more sitting here doing these episodes and talking to you, and and all the guys on Subtext as we go back and forth, just help each other out with all this knowledge. And just real quick to end it, Tyler Stephenson might be the biggest dude that we talked about today. 6'4", 225, big catcher frame on him. I love Tyler Stephenson going into 2025. I'll probably have a couple of shares of him as well. But with that being said, guys, that is all for today's episode. Please be sure to like, subscribe, comment, rate, and review. Shout out to our everydayers and new listeners making Locked On Fantasy Baseball your first listen each and every day. And after you make us your first listen, go check out our boy Sully over at Locked On MLB. Does a great job of covering the league a little bit differently than Matt and I do. Of course, we put our fantasy baseball take on it. Sully has a more straightforward take across the whole league. So make sure you check him out. But guys, that is all. Until next time, see ya.